Have you ever confidently shared something online, only to find out later it wasn't true? Maybe it was a headline that got you riled up, a video that seemed too wild to ignore, or a quote that felt just too real. And even when someone pointed out the facts, a part of you still wondered, but what if it's true? You're not alone. That's not a failure of intelligence. It's a design flaw in how the human brain handles information. And that's exactly what Sander van der Linden wanted to write about in his book titled Foolproof: Why We Fall for Misinformation and How to Build Immunity. And this book sets out to fix this human design flaw. Because here's the truth. Misinformation isn't a glitch in the system. It is the system. And if you want to protect your brain from falling for it, again and again, there's a way to build immunity. But it starts by understanding why we fall for it in the first place. What you're about to hear might just change the way you read headlines, scroll your feed, or even argue with your uncle at Thanksgiving. And by the end of this video, we'll show you the one method that's been scientifically proven to act like a vaccine against misinformation. Yes, a literal psychological vaccine. Let's go back to a psychological experiment. Researchers showed participants fake news headlines like, "Pope Francis endorses Donald Trump for president." Even when people were told afterward that the headline was fake, they actually continued to recall it as true later. This is known as the continued influence effect. It's like when a jury hears an argument in a courtroom but is told to disregard it because it was overruled. The fact of natural human instinct is that it is hard for them to completely forget it. Your brain doesn't like an empty space where a fact used to be. So if something false fills that gap, your mind just shrugs and says, "Good enough." That's why simply correcting misinformation doesn't work. If the lie gets there first, it tends to stick. And in a digital world where speed beats accuracy every single time, the truth is losing. Sander van der Linden, a Cambridge professor who's been studying this for years, makes one thing clear. This isn't just about fake news. It's about how our minds are wired and how that wiring makes us vulnerable in ways we don't even notice. Take cognitive biases. We all have them. It's when someone looks at something or someone and they make a quick judgment with assumptions based on previous knowledge of something similar. They're shortcuts the brain uses to process information quickly. But here's the problem. Misinformation loves those shortcuts. Let's break down a few that play right into its hands. First, confirmation bias. We believe things that fit what we already think. If you already believe climate change is a hoax, a headline that says, "Scientists admit global warming is a scam," just feels right. No need to fact check. Second, familiarity bias. The more we see or hear something, the more we believe it's true, even if it's completely false. That's why repeating a lie, even to debunk it, can actually reinforce it. Third, illusory truth effect. Closely related, this one is sneaky. If a statement is repeated often enough, it starts to feel true. Human emotion trumps logic. So now the question becomes, how do you fight back? You don't fight fire with fire. You fight misinformation with mental immunity. And this is where the most fascinating part of the book comes in. Psychological inoculation. Yes, like a vaccine, but for your brain. The idea comes from a classic theory in psychology. If you expose someone to a weakened version of a virus, their body learns how to fight the real thing. Van der Linden applies the same logic to misinformation. Expose someone to a weakened form of manipulation, and they'll learn to spot the tactics and defend themselves. He and his team ran experiments to test this theory, and the results were jaw-dropping. People who watched short videos explaining how misinformation works, like how bots spread fake stories, or how conspiracy theories use emotional language, were significantly less likely to believe false content afterward. Even better, this effect lasted over time. It's called pre-bunking. Not debunking, pre-bunking. Here's a real-world example. Before the pandemic, Van der Linden's team created a mobile game called Bad News. In it, players take on the role of a fake news creator. You literally learn how to manipulate people by stoking outrage, spreading lies, and building followers. But here's the twist. By seeing how the tactics work from the inside, your brain learns to spot them on the outside. And it works. People who played bad news were better at identifying misinformation later, even in completely unrelated areas like vaccines or politics. So the takeaway is this: the most effective way to fight misinformation is to educate people on the tactics before the lie shows up. That's the future of digital literacy. It's not just about checking facts, it's about building resistance. And Linden doesn't stop there. He dives into why some people are more vulnerable than others. Turns out, being highly educated or smart doesn't make you immune. In fact, sometimes smart people are even better at rationalizing false beliefs. Why? Because they use their intelligence not to seek truth, but to defend what they already believe. The real predictor of resistance to misinformation isn't IQ. It's something called cognitive reflection. That's your ability to pause and ask, wait, is this actually true? Before reacting emotionally. It's the pause that protects you. That's why Linden emphasizes critical thinking skills, but not the kind taught in old-school classrooms. We're talking about real-world, rapid response thinking. So here's what actually works. 1. Learn the tactics of misinformation. The moment you recognize emotional manipulation, bots, or false authority, your brain builds resistance. 2. Use pre-bunking. Expose yourself to the weakened virus so your brain can develop antibodies. Watch training videos, play games like Bad News, or follow accounts that unpack misinformation in real time. 3. Slow down. Take a beat before you share. Ask, who's behind this? Why was it made? What emotion is it trying to stir in me? 4. Encourage media literacy early. Kids growing up today are swimming in a sea of content. Teaching them to question how something was made, not just what it says, is a survival skill. 5. Talk about misinformation openly. This part is huge. When people feel embarrassed or attacked for believing something false, they double down. But when you approach with curiosity, what made that feel true to you? You create space for change. Linden is careful to say that we'll never fully eliminate misinformation. That's not the goal. The goal is to shift the balance of power. Right now, lies spread faster, reach farther, and linger longer than the truth. But if we can create a public that's aware, reflective, and trained to spot manipulation, we start to tip the scales. The final chapters of the book explore what this means for tech platforms, governments, and education systems. But the real change starts with you. You, watching this. You, wondering if your social feed is tricking you. You, pausing for that extra second before you hit share. Because every pause, every question, every moment of awareness adds up. And when enough people do it, misinformation starts to lose its grip. So, the next time you see a post that sparks outrage or feels too perfect, ask yourself, who benefits from me believing this? What's the source? And could this be the virus? Because the first step to staying foolproof is knowing that anyone can be fooled, but you don't have to stay that way. So, have you ever accidentally shared something fake? Or watched a loved one fall down a conspiracy rabbit hole? If so, what helped bring you back to reality? Share your experience in the comments below. And if you want more videos that help you think clearly in a chaotic world, remember to like and subscribe to our channel. And of course, feel free to let us know if there are any other books or topics you are interested in. We'll see you in the next one.